What's up, plebeians? It's your boy, Neil with the Balding Plebs, and I'm back here joined tonight by my good friend, Big Rick. Rick, great to have you back on the Exposed Gaming Podcast.
Yep. It's been what, like a year?
Yeah, at least a year. Well, we take summers off because we actually do stuff during the summer. I
Mm-hmm.
myself spent the entirety of summer months doing lots of trout fishing, hiking, and exploring. You guys can check that out in Real Wisconsin Outdoors. But that's not why we're here tonight. Tonight we're here on the Exposed Gaming Podcast to talk about 2024 as a whole, dish out our favorite games of the year, and discuss some of the biggest flops of the year. Rick, you ready for this?
There was a lot of them.
There
There was a
was.
lot of them.
There was a lot of them. It's wild to me because when the year started, we had The Last of Us Part 2 remastered, we had Pal World, we had Enshrouded, and I felt like those three games in the first month of the year were an awesome start.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I really did. And I remember playing Enshrouded with you, and I remember kind of experiencing that game for the first time and thinking to myself, yeah, dude, I can see where some people are going to sink 100 or 200 hours into this game for sure. For sure.
Enshrouded, I'm trying to remember correctly. That's the one.
Where every time you do something, a little bit more of the map becomes accessible. And you
Okay.
remember we would go down and we would kill these guys, and then like the shroud would go away and you could explore a little bit more. And if you were in the shroud for too long, you'd die or whatever.
Yep.
You
Okay.
know what I'm
Yep,
talking
that was a
about.
great game.
And we
Yep, I
and
remember
we and
now.
we exhausted what we could play almost right away, and we were kind of disappointed.
I will say, we spoke about this earlier. 2024 is it? I wouldn't even say it's mixed. It was majority ass and good games towards the end of the year, right?
Yeah,
I
there
want to talk
was
about
there was some bad games released in 2024.
for example, and funny enough, this game is dead now. But Suicide Squad, we've been shooting on that game for a few months now, right? That's
Yes,
2024, isn't it?
yes, it is.
Suicide Squad is getting their final content release with Deathstroke, and no more content or no more new content is coming. So they're gonna keep the game alive, which is probably gonna last like a year,
Yeah,
from at most. That game is officially dead, and we
dude,
also have the writing on the wall.
I have to tell you, dude, I'm really shocked that more people didn't see that coming. You know what I mean? Because we were talking about it. I remember talking about it in Exposed Gaming Podcast episodes all the way up
Mm-hmm.
through last year. I remember you and I talking about that going, I don't see how this game is going to be good. I just,
Mm-hmm.
like, I want to give it a chance. I want to let it come out and I want to let it breathe. But I distinctly remember you and I watching trailers and like discussing it on the podcast going, there is
Mm-hmm.
no way this is going to survive.
And I remember
So,
saying, I was like, watch, they're gonna finish their promised 4 seasons, and
yep,
they're not gonna touch it again. And
yep,
that's exactly what happened.
yep. One thing I wanted to mention before we kind of move on to some of those games is remember the start of the year we had two or three really big games that just captivated gamers for a few months, and I'll get in here and we'll get off it in a minute, but I just wanted to mention it. Pal World, remember that,
Yes.
dude? Pal World. I remember when that game came out, it was red hot. Oh my god. And the actual concept of that game, I think it's so interesting and I think it's so exciting. And I love that indie devs are giving us games like Pal World, like Enshrouded, that we can dive into and that we can play that are just fun games. You know what I'm talking about, Ricky?
You know it's good when Nintendo's trying to get at them for fucking infringement on their Pokeballs. Like,
Of course it is. Of course it is. Of course it is.
you saw it was gonna happen. It took a little bit, but they're finally doing it. They had an open patent for the capture mechanic, which is throwing the ball, capturing the Pokemon.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can have a patent on that, because I mean it's just a trap. Like, and then what about like Digimon or whoever did it before Pokemon? You know, it's just
Yeah. So, I mean, it is what it is. Overall, I still think it's a great game. And so
it's
if you
for sure
move,
great.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And if you move into February and their release slate, you see some mediocre games: Persona 3 Reload, Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League, Banishers Ghost of New Eden. That game just kind of flew under the radar. Always seemed kind of mid to me. Always seemed kind of meh. But then we had some releases in February that were amazing. The Tomb Raider Remastered Collection. I remember when Jared bought that. I remember sitting there and watching Jared for hours playing the Tomb Raider Remastered Collection. And I have to tell you, if there's any Tomb Raider fans out there listening, this right here is actually one of his runners-up for Game of the Year. Another game I want to make sure I give shout-outs to from February is Helldivers 2. Until the whole PlayStation account fiasco, which I'm not going to get into, the actual game itself is just awesome.
It was probably one of the best co-op experiences I've had.
Yeah.
This year, aside from Warhammer.
Yeah, there was 2 really stunning co-op experiences this year. Or, well, 3 right now if you count Path of Exile 2. But there was 2 really stunning co-op experiences from this year. One of them was Helldivers 2, and the other was Space Marine 2, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show.
I noticed you didn't mention the biggest game of February, so I have to do it right now. The first quadruple A game from Ubisoft, Skull and Bones.
Bro, do you remember when we were talking about Skull and Bones, and we were kind of joking about it, and like how it's gonna I mean, dude, here's the thing, right? I remember making breakdown and reviews last year for February and stuff coming into Skull and Bones release, and I remember saying this game's gonna be a big flop, this game's not gonna last, this game's not gonna survive. And I remember like dick riders coming into my chat and like cussing me out, dude. I don't understand. I don't understand where any or a lot of that stuff comes from, because like you could have looked at the trailers and you could have played the beta for Skull and Bones and known the game was going to be shit.
I knew it was asked the moment we stepped into that beta or alpha, whatever it was. 30 minutes in, I already played the whole game. I knew how trash it was.
And we were trying to get onto that ship to get that guy's journal so we could get to the open world area, and we like couldn't figure out how to do it. That was when I knew.
I want to say, so I'm gonna get into Skull and Bones really quick, and then another reason why I don't like it. Skull and Bones stemmed from Black Flag, right? Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag.
Yep.
Black Flag had really good naval combat, and people liked it so much that Ubisoft decided to make a solo game based off of that.
Yep.
Now, how they went from Black Flag, which had shipboarding, way better combat mechanics. I mean, there's whaling and everything, right? You're an actual pirate. Skull and Bones has none of that. You can't board an enemy ship. It's all just pure naval cannon combat, which if you're into that, sure. But there's other games that do it way better than they do it. Overworld is not fun. The exploration I had no interest in doing, right? Those are the main reasons why I don't like it. But here's a different side of things. Skull and Bones is in development for what, like 11 years, right? And in the process of the, between that 11 years, they've canceled projects like Immortals Phoenix Rising 2, which is, if you guys remember, or if you watched, that was Neo's Game of the Year for that year. You remember that?
Yep.
They canceled the sequel to focus on other projects such as more Assassin's Creed games, which is whatever, and Skull and Bones, and X Defiant, and Ghost Recon Battle Royale that is now canceled. They canceled such a good game to make trash that they and like X Defiant, for example, they're closing down in summer 2025. Instead of using that money to make an actual good IP like Immortals Phoenix Rising, they wasted it on games like Skull and Bones and X Defiant. If you really think about it, like they just stole that experience from me. Like Ubisoft, I honestly hope they burn and crash.
Yeah, it is disappointing to see a company like Ubisoft making those kind of decisions, because as well as I do. God, I hate when my camera doesn't sit like it's supposed to.
I guarantee if Ubisoft made a Phoenix Rising 2, that game would have popped off.
You think so?
And they would have made a lot of money. The first game was so good.
Yeah.
It had personality, it had good combat, it had a great world, fun to explore, beautiful graphics. and then they push it out like Skull and Bones.
Yeah, and you see stuff like that, and you think to yourself, well, this is why this company is failing. Well, this is
Hmm.
why this company is struggling. And the thing is, right now, these days, if you point that stuff out, you're a racist, you're a misogynist, you're a bigot, you're a
Hmm.
what are the other terms they're using for people like Smash, JT, and Vera Dark? Like you're all of those things, right? You're not allowed to call that stuff
Hmm.
out anymore. Um, and I don't really care for that because to me, all that is a band-aid for a deeper problem that needs to be addressed in the
Hmm.
industry, and that is we're only going to build our games based on, whatever, when realistically, 99% of the time, if you give the fan bases what they want, you're going to
Hmm.
make money.
This is what it is, right? The sole purpose for these choices is monetization.
Yeah.
Obviously, games are made to make money. That's fine. We all
Yeah.
understand that. We're not
It's a
stupid.
business.
The thing is, though, is that when you're making games like X Defiant, where the combat and the gameplay just isn't good, like you can get the technical aspects of X Defiant, where the connection was bad. The engine couldn't run an FPS. It was like an RPG engine they're using, right?
Yeah.
All reasons why people just stopped playing. And second Black Ops 6 came out, they all went back to Black Ops because obviously Call of Duty is never going to be taken down, right?
No.
And I give them, props for trying, but X Defiant, I'll get into it again. Gunplay mediocre, maps were bad, character skin bundles were like $40, $30 because it's all about monetization. They want to get a live service out there that they can make money off of, like Call of Duty and Fortnite, right? And people are like, okay, well, if we make a single player game, we only get their one time, purchase, and then we don't make any money from that. And I feel like they want to get all the cookies in a jar, like get your win and then make another great game, like you used to,
Well,
like a CDPR,
that that's kind of what I'm thinking too. Is it's like, okay, we're gonna cram all of this monetization into this game, which really has no purpose having the monetization,
Hmm.
and then we're not even going to establish the game as a quality game first. See, that's the problem. Is these games they expect to launch quality. They expect to launch and be popular, right? That's what happened with Concord. That's what's happening with a lot of these games is they're expecting to launch and be accepted. Because
Exactly.
everybody loves Call of Duty, everybody loves Helldivers, everybody loves everybody loves Fortnite. Well, they're going to love our battle royale. They're going to love
Hmm.
our PvP shooter. They're going to love this. They're going to love that. And sometimes I find myself sitting here and thinking, did you guys actually focus on making the game fun or just making your
Yeah,
in-game shop functional? Because
exactly.
because for me, right, that's one of the big issues. And I do see a lot of that happening in game development right now where it's like, hey, we released this game, um, make sure it's you guys are gonna love this. It's like,
Mm.
well, not necessarily. And so I think there is a lot of that going on is these companies forget that Call of Duty has had 10, 15, 20 years to endear itself to the fan base.
Yeah.
And the fan base comes and goes. Okay, look at a guy like you. You buy every new Call of Duty, you play every new Call of Duty, and that's totally fine. You are a Call of Duty fan, and that's okay.
Mm.
And then look at a guy like me. I grew up playing it. We've had this conversation before. I told you
Mm.
I'll never pay money for another Call of Duty game again because for me, Call of Duty has lived and served its purpose. It's not
Yeah.
special to me anymore. It's not exciting to me anymore. So, but it's been around for so long that if you say Call of Duty to a gamer, they know what it is, even if they don't play it.
Hmm.
Fortnite has been around for so long and has been the king of the mountain for so long. As a gamer, right? If I say, hey, do you play Fortnite to somebody? They don't say, what's Fortnite? They say, oh no, that's not for me. I don't like games like that. Or they say, bro, I love Fortnite. So they know what those games are. If I get into a conversation with somebody I was like, hey man, you into that X Defiant? They might look at me and be like, what kind of kinky shit are you into, bro? Like they don't even know what that is.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
what I'm telling you is a lot of these companies forget you need to endear yourself and you need to make your game known and popular
Mm.
before you try to cash in on your fan base. Call of Duty's been popular for 20 years. They've, I say, earned the right to cash in on the fan base. I still think it's stupid how people support that stuff. But what I'm telling you is their monetization is not going to be viewed the same as like an X Defiance monetization or as a Skull and Bones monetization.
I want to say something real quick. In regards to tunnel vision gaming, right? So obviously Ubisoft, for example, they want to get the the next big thing with X Defiant, and that's the thing, right? They're sitting on so many IPs like Splinter Cell, Assassin's Creed, even though it's on a downtrend now. So many good games that they've made, they pretty much shelve to try to get the next live service game out. And the thing about live service is people only have so much time to play these games. A new live service is going to come out, they're going to play it for a week, and then they're going to go back to Call of Duty or Fortnite, right?
Yep.
Because that's what they're used to playing. Now, unless there's an exceptional, really good game that comes out one day, and it's not impossible, they're always going to go back to what they're used to. Because obviously, we all for the most part, we're all working people, right?
Yeah.
I don't have time to play Call of Duty, Fortnite, X Defiant, all games that you need to put a lot of time into. It's just, it doesn't work like that.
So
They really need to shift focus back to what worked with traditional, single player games. Like, just go back to making good games that are made to entertain and not make money. Even though obviously you want to make money.
Here is something that goes right along with what you said. Lynn and I were playing Once Human. Lynn has over 150 hours in Once Human. It's one of her most played PC games, if not her most played PC game ever. And she loves it. And I really enjoyed it.
It's a great game.
But we're off of it now. We haven't touched it. We haven't touched it in months.
Now we're back on Fortnite,
Yeah, now we're back on Fortnite. Now I'm playing Indiana Jones and I'm playing Stalker 2.
Yeah.
I'm playing these other games, right? So like these games that, come and go. And a lot of people, a lot of developers don't necessarily seem to understand that, right? If you're terminally online and you do nothing but play video games, first of all, you need to take a step back and reevaluate. But if you're terminally online and you have all kinds of free time to play video games, sure, maybe you're sticking in 40 or 50 hours in a weekend. But for the most part, the working Joe and the working Jane isn't doing that. They're going to work, they're playing for a couple hours, and then they're going back to work the next day. And it's like, these companies got to realize there's only so much expendable time, especially if you're one of those people that's out there grinding and out there trying to make, ends meet in the world right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. What else did I notice? Alone in the Dark.
Wait, hang on. Wait, before we move forward, I do want to say there are the exceptions of the CDPRs out there.
Oh yeah.
The
Always.
What's the Baldur's Gate? Larian had a great. Yeah. We'll get into it, but he had a great speech. He called out the layoffs, the monetization, the putting out unfinished games. Yeah. Like developers like that care, they're the ones that deserve your $70, right?
Yeah.
Not Ubisoft with their X Defiance and their Ghost Recons that aren't good anymore.
Yeah, I thought what's his name? I don't know what his name is, but I thought he was.
I don't know.
I thought he cooked at the Game Awards, dude.
It was great.
He cooked. Let's talk about for just a second. Let's talk about a game that I think some people were really excited for, and I think even in like my comments and stuff, some people were kind of mad at me that I wasn't hyped for it. The new Alone in the Dark game, and I saw that game going one of two ways. It was either going to come out, be a smash success, and be amazing, or it was going to come out and it was going to be a wait for $20 sale. And that is actually exactly what it is. The new Alone in the Dark game came out, and it continues the trend of basically nobody knows how to make a good Alone in the Dark game. Everything I watched for it made me think it was boring, made me think it wasn't something I would ever be interested in. And again, another, I don't want to say huge flop, but that game is more of like, it's a miss, right? It comes out and you're like, what the fuck were we so excited for?
I will say, I don't even know Alone in the Dark. I know the name, but I haven't seen anything about it.
Okay. Here's another game that kind of triggered people. This was like the first triggering of 2024. Stellar Blade with the hot female characters, making a main female character,
Yeah.
making your female characters how they should actually look instead of making them fat and dumb and frumpy looking. You know, all these people whining and crying that nobody wants to play their game should take a look at the characters they're portraying, because maybe most people don't want to play as a fat, stupid, frumpy bitch. Let's be honest. Come on.
You gotta remember that video games are a form of entertainment and escapism, right?
Yep.
Like, if I'm playing a game, like, I don't want to, I'm not, guys, but, like, I would much rather prefer to look at, hot chick, Lara Croft, Stellar Blade, Eve, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather look at that than some, I can't say that word, than some
fat bitch
butch-looking lady,
Yeah, you could say butch.
Like,
and you could
and
say,
I want to make
you could say dark
reference.
if you wanted to.
Yeah, I want to say a reference where I think I'm not gonna get too into it because we're gonna go off topic, but I do want to say something about 2 games that got revealed last week: The Witcher 4 and Intergalactic. I'll start with The Witcher first. People are dogging on the design of Ciri because they think she looks mannish or like a stronger jaw. And you gotta remember, first of all, that's a CG trailer. The game is probably gonna come out in like 4 years from now anyway.
Yeah.
If you look back at The Witcher 3, yeah. Look back at The Witcher 3 CG reveal. Like, remember that amazing trailer they showed?
Yep.
Geralt, they look similar, but Geralt doesn't look like that, right? Like, design's up for change. And it's just it's UE5, the new engine, the lighting, and there's angles, She looks good to me, in my opinion, right?
Yeah, I thought she looked fine.
Yeah, and then people are saying, oh, it's woke, and they uglified her, and like, well, first of all, it's years later, she's aged, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll go to Intergalactic, where you have the woman kind of mannish looking,
bald-headed girl boss.
I had no issue with it though, right?
I didn't really
unless you see more. Yeah, if we have more dialogue and she's talking like the chick from Forspoken, then I'll have an issue.
Yeah.
But for the most part, that trailer, even though it was just a CG trailer, it excited me. I liked the tone of it in 80s, like retro sci-fi, futuristic.
Yeah.
I was really into it. And the protagonist, I don't have an issue with her. If she's like strong and she's cool, she has a good personality, I'm totally fine with her design.
Me too.
Right?
Me
She doesn't have to be fine as hell, but she looks, like she looks cool. And then we'll go to a game like, let's say, Baldur's, what's that game? Dragon Age.
Yep.
Veilguard.
Yep. They
do the exact opposite, where they have this ugly ass characters, and they're pushing their, I don't want to say that word, but
agenda.
Their agenda into your face.
Well,
like,
I watched a clip where this one character's having like a 5-minute conversation or a 10-minute conversation with their mother about how they don't identify as she or her or he or him. They identify as they and them. And I'm like that. It was like a big like a life affirming conversation in this game, and I was like, why is this in this game? And why is why is there so much overt focus on this? It's
such a self-insert. It's so obvious what it is, right? It's a self-insert. And the thing is, like, if that character was trans, right, and it just came out in passing, like, oh, blah, 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 and it wasn't so focused on, I wouldn't have given a shit. Okay, whatever, I don't care. I'm going to keep killing dragons.
Yeah,
but when they shift the focus, like, 10 minutes straight of just, like, this and that, oh, I'm sorry I called you she, blah, 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 like,
yeah.
It's such a self-insert, and it really takes you out of the world.
Yeah, I've got to do 100 push-ups now because I misgendered you. Like, that's dumb.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And, like, I just want to make a point of what I'm trying to say is, I don't care if the protagonist is a woman, like, at all.
Yeah, me neither.
If it's a good protagonist, like the Lara Croft, the series, the Eves from Stellar Blade, or Nier Automata, I don't know her name, 2B. There's plenty of ways to do female protagonists. They don't even have to be skimpy like Eve or whatever. You can just be like Ciri, right? She's just a badass fighter. She has like fucking powers and she kills monsters. Or Lara Croft, she's a Tomb Raider, she finds treasure. Like, just, they don't put any of those agendas in your face. It's just a well-developed character, right?
Yep.
That's it.
Absolutely. We saw some games coming out. We saw like Hades 2 early access. We saw V Rising hit 1.0, and we got to have some other games coming out, like the System Shock remake.
I really enjoyed that, by the way.
Yeah, I
Good
know.
game.
That was I played the demo and I thought it was interesting. Definitely some things that take some getting used to, but I did think it was interesting. And of course, then in May, your favorite game came out. Of course, we're gonna double back. We're gonna circle back to this one now. X Defiant. So the game's been out since May, and we got an article the other day talking about how they're shutting it down already. But dude, it's
Yep.
mind blowing to me. We're gonna stick all this money into something, and we're just not gonna follow through with it, or we're gonna stick all this money into something expecting it to be the next big thing.
That's the thing, right? They take their shot in the dark, and like, are you not seeing what's happening to all these other companies?
Yeah.
Like, if we even look away from them canceling projects to make these kind of games, they're also this leads to layoffs and studio closures, right?
It does.
Yeah, like they closed the San Francisco studio, I believe. Was that the one? I don't want to misspeak here, but I believe that's the one. They closed that studio. They put the devs on other jobs, which is fine. At least they didn't get fired.
Yeah.
But like, it's such a waste of like time. Like, it's like just mismanagement, you know?
Yeah.
They
And
need just
so this was, yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. This was something that we kind of talked about earlier this year. Of course, there was big time hype for Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. A lot of people really, really looked forward to that game, and it delivered. I think FromSoft is one of the best group of devs in the business. I think they produce very quality products,
yeah.
and we are looking forward to Night Train. We are looking forward to a few other games, coming down the pipeline. But I remember watching my brother play this and thinking, man, this is a whole nother game. Wow, what an experience, And then, I remember kind of talking some shit about this game, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, the game. And I remember when I made those videos and when I made those kind of, like teasing, joking videos, I remember some people, or maybe they were bots, I don't know. Sometimes I think they're the same thing. But I remember some of these people coming out and basically saying, you don't know what you're talking about. This game is going to be the best. And whenever I start to see comments like that, I know the game is going to be dead in about 6 months. Which, if you look at the numbers, the game is pretty much dead already. They're just...
I do want to say something.
Okay, go ahead.
I always mention this when we talk about these games, right? The asymmetrical horror genre.
Yeah.
I've always said this. I said, Neo, I think it comes down to the simple fact that me and you just don't like these kind of games, right? We didn't like Evil Dead. We didn't even play Killer Clowns, but they're all the same. The only game that's decent, remind me the name of it, the popular one.
Dead by Daylight.
Dead by Daylight, because they have that's the only game that should exist. Because they have all the horror characters. You got Mike Myers, blah 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 blah, right? That's how it should be. It's just not a genre for us, and I feel like sometimes it's unfair that we shit on it so much because we just don't like it. But
to be fair, Evil Dead the game was actually bad.
It
It
was bad.
You say we just don't like asymmetrical horror games, which is also true. But I remember playing Evil Dead the game with you on launch, and I remember walking away from that going, that fucking sucked.
Yeah. It came from server issues, and then the actual game was just dookie.
Just dookie, yeah. And
like
all
in
the
regards
people,
to the genre,
like just desperate to convince us that we're wrong. Yep. And it's like, sometimes I wonder if these gamer standards are really just that low, or if they've never actually played a good game before.
Like, let's take a look here, right? Every time I see a release of an asymmetrical horror game, we got Texas Chainsaw, Killer Clowns, Evil Dead. I've never been interested in any Friday the 13th too, right? The only one that's really good is Dead by Daylight for whatever reason. People like that game a lot, which is fine.
Well, because it was the original. That was the first one.
Right. And the thing that they do good is they have multiple horror icons, and in the other games, kind of just take the actual whole IP and try to make a full game out of it with just that IP.
Yeah.
And I think that's why there's like nobody really. It's so niche that it's just not going to take off.
I'm glad you mentioned Texas Chainsaw Massacre because I completely forgot about that game, and I have to tell you that game sucked too. That game sucked too. Because I remember
for the most part, they're all the same.
I played that game on launch with Lynn, and even Lynn kind of liked, because she's a huge Texas Chainsaw fan, whatever, met Leatherface, all that shit, and she grew up watching all that stuff, and we're just talking, and she said, yeah, it just doesn't really hold my attention. I mean, I would play it with you again, Justin, but I wouldn't I wouldn't really go out of my way to put a bunch of
I
time
wouldn't even
into
take
it.
that as a selling point because anything with a friend is fun.
Yeah,
That's
you
how I
can
see it.
you can make shitty games fun with friends.
Hmm.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, let's see what else we got.
I
Remember
do want
that?
to mention.
Oh, go
Hang
ahead.
on.
Go ahead.
Let's go to March real quick. March. I want to mention a game that kind of let me down.
Wait, let me see
So
if I can predict it. Let's see. In March, you were let down by. Hmm. Well, I want to mention a good game too. You were let down by. Couldn't be Horizon because that was good.
no, not that shit.
Dragon's Dogma 2.
Yep.
You know,
Dragon's
it's
Dogma 2.
it's weird that I completely glazed over that game because that's one of the only games I finished
You
this
forgot
year.
about it.
Yeah, it's a B minus. It's a C plus player. Dragon's
Hmm.
Dogma 2. It's a C plus player.
Now I'm gonna go into it real quick.
Go
I
ahead.
expected a lot more from Dragon's Dogma 2. Obviously, it's a game where you fight monsters. That's fair. But I wish there was more RPG elements to it. Um, I don't know what I was expecting. I never played the original.
Yeah.
I was hoping that there would be like cool choices to make and romances and all the stuff you do in an RPG. But it really didn't have any of that, and the story never grabbed me. I just kind of ran around fighting stuff and got stronger, which is fine. But the performance was bad. The combat was okay. The bosses are all easy. It's a game that's like I kind of
Yeah.
glazed through it and I just forgot about it after I beat it.
The more I looked at the game, the more I saw the enemy variety being very repetitive,
Yeah,
and
it was
and
very repetitive.
and the thing was, the end game was so bad
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
I found myself speed running the end game to get done with the
Hmm.
game so I could sell it and get as much money as possible.
Yeah.
The way I felt playing that game when I was playing Dragon's Dogma 2, you know how that reminded me? That reminded me of what was that Dead Space wannabe that came out last year?
Callisto Protocol.
That reminded me of how I felt playing the Callisto Protocol. Like I was finishing it because I was close to the end, but I
Yeah,
just wanted to get through it and I never want to play it again.
yeah.
That is how I felt playing Dragon's Dogma 2, and that is never a good thing.
The
One
thing
game.
is
Oh,
that
sorry.
the whole mechanic was, oh, if you don't do this in this amount of time, the world is done and you lose, right?
Yeah.
I didn't like that. I want to take my time with the end game. I want to explore the new world that you put me in. But instead, I kind of have to run here and there and fast travel everywhere because if you don't finish it within like a week in game,
Yeah.
you get the
It
bad ending or
sucked.
whatever. It's like
It sucked.
it
That
wasn't
was
good.
shit.
Yeah.
That was shit. One game I wanted to mention that did come out this year. It's an indie title, and this is going to be a great soundbite for the YouTube shorts. But one game I want to mention is Hi-Fi Rush. If you have
Mhm.
not played Hi-Fi Rush and you are a fan of rhythm games mixed with like third-person fun melee combat style games, you must play Hi-Fi Rush. It is amazing. I absolutely love it.
You know what's sad? That game was shadow dropped. Instantly took off. No promo, just boom. Here's the game.
Yep,
It blew up, and I'm pretty sure they closed the studio
yep,
recently.
they did. You okay? Okay, go back to bed. Love you. Yeah, it was. I agree with you
Things like
100%.
that kind of put into perspective what they're focusing on. Like that game was so good, and they shut it down so they could focus on whatever bullshit live service they're working on.
Well, they shut the studio down. I don't think they shut the game down. I think you still
No,
play
the
it.
game's still up at the
Yeah.
studio. Yeah.
Yeah, the game is phenomenal. You should play it. Absolutely. Super, 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 ultra, mega, 8.5, 9 out of 10 recommendation for Hi-Fi Rush. So here's another one of those trigger games that came out this year in July. Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn. I remember playing that game
Okay.
because I saw that it was, woke and it was this, that, and the other thing. Yeah, it sucked.
I don't remember that game.
Yeah,
It's the
the one with the girl boss character. It sucked.
okay.
It
Yeah,
sucked.
yeah.
There were some decent things about it, but for the most part, it did nothing to hold my attention. It was forgettable, and it's just another multi-million-dollar flop. Uh,
Hmm.
there's a great soundbite for Flintlock Siege of Dawn. What a piece of trash.
Let's move forward a little bit. Let's go to August. I want to
Yeah,
talk about big IPs, right? So we got Ubisoft. They
yeah.
previously put out a massive IP, right? They put out Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora last year, garbage. Now this
Wait, was
year they put
Avatar
us.
last year? That was this year, bro.
No, Avatar was December last year.
Really?
I guess we can consider it in part of the 2024 lineup.
Well,
Sure.
whatever. It sucked
Um,
anyway.
yeah. So I want to get into Star Wars Outlaws, right?
Yeah.
Girl boss, ugly character, bad combat, stealth is horrendous, the exploration is crap, missions locked behind certain editions of the game, standard Ubisoft bullshit, where they take a massive IP that they know already has a fan base attached to it.
And they shit on it.
They make a they make a big world and fill it with crap that people can go run around and waste time. And the story sucks, right?
Yep.
They put all their eggs in the basket just because it's Star Wars, this is gonna pop off for us.
Yeah.
And no, it wasn't even nominated for anything this year. That should tell you something.
Well, you know why? I'll tell you why. Because by the time the Game Awards came around, you forgot about that game already because it was so mediocre.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So look at it. Let's talk about a few other games here. There's three really big names in what was that, August? You had Star Wars Outlaws, you had Concord, and you had Black Myth Wukong. Only one of those games matters. The other two are totally irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
Black Myth Wukong is one of the best games released in the last 5 years. It is amazing. I played it, and I absolutely loved it. It was a ton of fun. Anybody that bought, played, rented, borrowed, whatever, Black Myth Wukong, probably had a good experience if they were
was a great
looking
game.
for what it was offering.
It was a great game. It was a great action combat, fighting game. The story was good. The character was cool as fuck.
Yeah.
That's like the staples of a cool game, right? Like
Yeah.
all you gotta do, make a cool ass character, make the combat fun, make the story fun and engaging, and that's it. That's a recipe for success.
So then let's look at some of the games that just flopped. Star Wars Outlaws, like you said, ugly character, trash game mechanics, mid all around. How about Dustborn, dude? A DEI injected preach piece where they're basically stuffing all this shit down your throat. I played it, dude. I couldn't even.
You actually played this?
I played Dustborn, dude.
Oh.
Ricky, listen, bro. I couldn't play it past a certain point because it's not even. It doesn't even register in my brain. It's such a fucking flop. And then
It's trash.
Then of course we talked about this too. Companies that get ahead of themselves and they expect their games to be popular without actually taking the time to make them popular. Concord, dude. They had so much money stuck into Concord. They had so many resources stuck into this motherfucker that when this game came out and wasn't a smash success, holy shit. Not only did PlayStation shut it down, but it shut down the studio, Firewalk Studios.
Yep.
And it refunded everybody who purchased the game, regardless of where you bought it. And the game was pulled from all retail shelves, and it is no longer available for sale. However, I do have this WADA graded 9.6 A++ copy of Concord for PS5 for sale for $999 if anybody's interested.
Now, I don't want to go into this too much because it's irrelevant, but big reason why Concord failed. First of all, ugly characters, DEI, gameplay too slow, combat sucks, right? Now, this is the thing. They released Concord as a premium release where it costed $40. And if you go back to the summer where they had their beta, they barely even got past like 1,000 players. That should have been enough for Sony to see that nobody had interest in playing it when it was free. Nobody's going to buy the damn game.
Yep, forget
Nobody got the game. It shut down 2 weeks later, right?
Yeah.
One or 2 weeks later, literally shut it down. And now Firewalk is gone. Sony is out like $400 million. Money that could have been put into a Jack and Daxter, Uncharted, whatever IP. Right? That's it. Whatever IP money could have been put towards. Instead, they decided to make that bullshit live service cash grab that they expected to pop off, and it didn't, and they're paying the price for it.
And another thing that is just wild to me is how many losers were trying to convince you that this was like somehow the next big game, or you had to give this game a chance, or you're a transphobe, or you're a sexist for not liking this game. I had a guy tell me to kill myself on eBay because I'm selling a 9.8 A plus water graded game. Had a guy actually tell me to kill myself. Like, dude, that's fucking wild.
In Minecraft.
It's wild to me, dude, that this is the thing.
Yeah. And like
Bad games fail. Yeah, sometimes hidden gems fail.
Doesn't matter how much money you put in there, man.
It is a reality of life. Bad games are going to fail now because gamers are just not putting up with that shit anymore. All this ham-fisted DEI, ham-fisted super inclusive bullshit. People are tired of it, dude.
Exactly.
They don't want it around. They don't want that.
Things need to turn around. They need to turn around quick.
They want it natural. They want it to feel normal. They don't want to sit through a 10-minute conversation with the character's mother while they get preached at for being a they them and how they should make better life decisions and like, dude, like they don't want to see that shit in their games. They're just not fucking interested. And the failure of some of these games should tell them that.
I do want to say, damn, I just totally lost my train of thought.
LOL.
I want to kind of move on to games that I did enjoy this year real quick. And I'll always say this. I'm never going to say a multiplayer game is my game of the year. I may play them a lot, but I'm not even going to mention them. Like Black Ops 6 is fun. I'm not going to mention it though. The only game I enjoyed this year was the single player experience. It was my first time playing, so I didn't even know what happened in the story. It's a remake, Silent Hill 2.
You liked that, didn't you?
I really enjoy Silent Hill 2. Now, going in with a fresh mind, never playing Silent Hill before, not knowing James's story, I got that initial what the hell, I'm sure you guys got way back when.
Yeah.
Right? I really enjoyed that game. The atmosphere was amazing, sound design, creature design, storytelling, everything I really enjoyed about Silent Hill 2. Excellent. I like the pace of it. The combat's really good. And I really enjoyed the story. And at the end, when I saw the truth of what happened, I was just like, I was silent. I was like, no way. Like, and games don't usually do that to me anymore. The last game that really dragged me in was Cyberpunk. That's my favorite game of all time. I'm always down for story-based narrative single-player games. Those are my favorite. And Silent Hill 2 was definitely my favorite game for the year. I really enjoyed that game.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was talking to my brother, and he basically told me best just overall game experience. He was telling me that Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree is his game of the year, and he was telling me that for multiplayer game of the year, he's basically selecting Space Marine 2, and he's also selecting Path of Exile 2 as well.
If I had to choose a co-op game, it would probably be Helldivers because I put the most time into that with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's wild because for me, my game of the year is Space Marine 2. It's a game I had the most fun. It's a game I had the most fun with. My multiplayer game of the year is also Helldivers 2. I just love the for democracy. Like it's some of my favorites.
The whole community was together just killing aliens. That's fun.
Yep. We're not worried about your gender ideology. We're not worried about what color your skin is. The only thing we're worried about is killing the Terminids, stopping the robots, and now apparently fighting this new enemy that they've released. But it was a great bro shooter or gamer experience, I thought.
Yeah. And I want to say, so before, I know you just said your game of the year, but we'll go back to it.
Space Marine 2.
I want to say, yeah, my game of the year is going to be Silent Hill 2.
The remake.
Now let's talk about the actual winner of the game of the year. So this is the plebeians. We like Space Marine 2 and Silent Hill 2.
And Shadow of the Erdtree.
And Shadow of the Erdtree.
Oh, and best ongoing multiplayer game is obviously Fortnite. Nothing's going to touch that.
Of course. And now let's go into what actually won this year, which I'm not mad about.
Conquer.
Astrobot. Astrobot is a phenomenal game. It's a
Yes.
great platformer. It has so much personality. It pays so much homage to the 30 years of PlayStation with all the characters. The level design is fun. The music's fun. Astrobot himself is really cool. He's really unique and he's really fun. And I do like that they nodded over to Nintendo.
Yeah,
Without Mario, we would never got an Astrobot or probably any of the great platformers we have
I
today,
agree.
right? hmm So I'm not mad about that winning game of the year. I know a lot of people are having flack about it, saying you should go to Wukong, and Wukong's an amazing game too. It's good.
It
It's
is
a
an
really good
amazing
game.
game. But you know what? Either of those games, right now, you made a great point. Wukong or Astrobot, either of those games winning Game of the Year has the same effect. It
Yeah.
tells developers that gamers want fun games. Wukong, good fun game. Astrobot, good fun game. They're both equal in that respect. So
hmm
either of those games winning sends the exact same message.
It's the same thing that hit on before. Your character doesn't need to be sexy or anything. The Astrobot's a little tiny robot. He's cute,
Yeah.
right? The gameplay is fun. It's just like it's just something to sit down and blast some hours away. Like it's just genuine fun.
I remember when I got my PS5 for the first time, and my friend and I set it up together, and she was sitting down, and she's like, "What's this Astros Playroom?" And I was like, "I don't know. Fire it up and
hmm
play it. I don't care. I got some other stuff I got to do. I was installing a game to play." So she fires it up and she starts playing,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting there, and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of stupid," you know. So I back to whatever I'm doing, but then I look up and I'm watching the game, and I was like, "Well, actually, this is a lot of fun." And I remember thinking right then, this was about a year after the PS5 came out, why don't they have a video game for this little tard?
hmm
And
I'm
then
glad they saw that too.
Astrobot comes out, and I was like, they do have a video game for this little
Yeah.
tard.
You think about it, right? Astrobot has been around since PlayStation 4, if you remember. When it always started off as a tech demo, right? They show
Yeah,
off how the Sony tech works.
yeah.
Back then in the DualShock, whatever it was on the
Dual
PS4,
Sense, yeah.
you
Yeah,
could hear Astrobot inside the controller.
yeah,
And then for the DualSense, this generation, you could feel the tip taps and the movement and the bowstrings and all that.
yeah.
It's all just a tech demo, and people loved it so much that they made him his own game, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. It kind of killed poor Sackboy, no longer a PlayStation icon, but
So,
it's really good.
so there's a few other games I actually want to shout out here before we wrap things up. One thing I want to say is if you want a good RPG first-person shooter, you need to play Stalker 2: Heart of Chernobyl. It's amazing. It's challenging. It's immersive. It's very aggressive. Like I mean,
Yeah, it
it
can be
is.
difficult too.
It is.
Mhm.
It can be a very rough game, but it's good. I mean, I've really been enjoying my time with it. So I really recommend that one if you're looking for a first-person RPG shooter style game. Another game that I have to make sure I shout out because I've only played it a little bit, but everything I've seen on it has been so positive, and my experience has been so positive. Nine Souls. It is a Metroidvania side-scroller style game, and I have to tell you guys, I hear people comparing it to Hollow Knight. I hear people saying it could be the next Metroidvania of the next generation, and I see where they're coming from. It is so good. If you haven't played Nine Souls, I highly, highly recommend this game.
I want to recommend, if I were doing recommendations, I highly recommend for anybody interested in player versus player games like a PvP 6v6 game like that. Marvel Rivals, really good, really good. I've been playing Marvel Rivals for the past like 3 weeks or so. If you like that competitive, objective based game modes, I highly recommend Marvel Rivals. It's polished. All the heroes are free. Monetization is very minimal. It's just cosmetic. The battle pass system is really great because you can buy a battle pass and you can complete it whenever you want. There's no time limit. There's no 3 months and you get season two. You can complete it at any time throughout the life of the game. And it's really fun. It's a lot of fun if you have friends to play with. If you like objective-based game modes, definitely play Marvel Rivals.
Here is another game that I've been playing recently that I took a little bit of flack for being so rough on, but I stand by what I've said about it. It's one of the best and one of the worst games I've ever played. It is the best, worst game I've ever played. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Oh, okay.
There are so many things about this game that I love, and there's quite a few. But there's a lot of things about this game that make me go, why the fuck would you do that? Why the hell would a developer put that in the game? Or why would it work this way? Or why would you do this? Or why would you... Oh, that was so stiff. You know, this is 2024. But the actual spirit and exploration that game exudes when you're playing as Indy and you're in an underground temple or you're in a hidden church temple, it is amazing. And I absolutely love and hate the game at the same time. And believe it or not, for around $35 to $45, I recommend the game or play it.
I have a question.
Game Pass.
Who made Indiana? Is that Bethesda?
I have no idea. Yeah, was it?
I remember Todd and Troy were on stage together talking about it.
Was it Plebthesda?
Because if it was, then shit, they finally put something good out.
Was it Bethesda, guys?
Who developed Indiana Jones? Find out now.
Bethesda and Machine Games.
Okay, so it's a collaboration.
Wow.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, here's the
thing.
They
put on Stinker.
Yeah, here's the thing, right? The game is great, but it's like a sucky great. Okay. So it's like there's things about it that I adore, and there's things about it that I play, and I'm like, yep, this sucks. So sometimes I walk away from that game going, I can't wait to play again, and sometimes I walk away from it going, I don't ever want to play it again.
But let me ask you, do you see yourself completing it?
I see myself playing it at least one more play session. We'll see how I feel after that. I have a very love-hate relationship with this game.
And before we end off today, I just want to I want to go into most anticipated game for next year. Mine is obviously, with most people probably on this planet, Grand Theft Auto 6.
Yeah, I don't even care about.
Not even on your radar.
Not even on my radar. Okay. What's coming out next year? Oh, Monster Hunter Wilds. I don't care about anything else.
Actually, I will say, I'll give Dragon's Dogma some credit. Dragon's Dogma makes me want to play Monster Hunter Wilds. Yeah. Because I really did enjoy fighting big-ass monsters and getting cool weapons.
It is cool.
And I will say, I dogged on Monster Hunter because my first experience with it was Monster Hunter Rise on Nintendo Switch, and I hated it. It was boring as shit. So I'm never playing the series again. And I saw gameplay for Wilds, and I'm like, okay. After playing Dragon's Dogma 2, Wilds looks pretty fun. And if I can play with my friends and kill these big monsters, even better. The only thing I have a gripe with is the performance of it. I have a feeling it's going to perform like Dookie, but we'll see.
Monster Hunter games usually perform pretty well. Okay. I am beyond excited for Monster Hunter Wilds. It will probably, outside of one or two other games, it will probably be, because I know Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is coming out, and I'm going to play I'm going to play that just for the memes. But Monster Hunter Wilds will probably be one of the only games I actually buy next year.
Yeah.
So, because I'm starting to cycle out of gaming and cycle into more relevant things.
I'm in the same boat where I'm not buying as many games as I used to because I simply don't play them. Yeah. I just play the same multiplayer games I play, and then I play my Kingdom Hearts here and there. Yeah. Zelda's whenever those come out, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and if I see a good game come out on Game Pass, obviously like Indiana Jones, or if I see something like Stalker 2 on Game Pass, I'll jump in and play that for a couple weeks. But I won't rush out and spend. I think the only game, one of two games, because I bought Dragon's Dogma 2, the only two games that I bought on day one, and paid full price for this year, were Space Marine 2 and Dragon's Dogma 2. Everything else I either got on sale, returned, or played on Game Pass.
And you're not honestly, you're not missing anything.
Yeah, I didn't miss anything this year.
These games can be played at any time. Probably even better if a new patch, right? You don't need to buy these fucking games day one pre-order.
Yep.
Assassin's Creed Shadows is the first AC game that I didn't pre-order. I didn't buy it at all.
Well, it's because you finally got smart and realized you're playing the same shit over and over.
Well, it's not that, right? I've always enjoyed the Assassin's Creed formula. It's just the story and the combat sucks. And I have no interest in Shadows, mostly because I played Ghost of Tsushima, and it looks like a copycat. I don't feel like playing that again.
That's exactly what
There's no hype
like.
for me. But to recap, my game of the year, like I said, is Silent Hill 2. You said Jdog was what was it?
Shadow of the Erdtree DLC.
Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree. Really excited for Night Rain. It's a 3-player co-op experience in the Elden Ring universe, so that's gonna be freaking awesome. And then yours was Space Marine 2.
Space Marine 2, and my multiplayer game of the year was Helldivers 2.
Yeah. So you guys let us know your thoughts on the video today, and let us know what your game of the year was and what you're excited for next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to have you guys here for the return of the Exposed Gaming Podcast. We'll probably be jumping things up this winter. Hopefully, we'll have a couple episodes here and there. If we can get some interesting things, some interesting stuff in the gaming world coming up. You know, there's gonna probably be a trigger article somewhere from somebody.
And remember, guys, do not pre-order single-player games. Just don't do it. You don't need that fancy little horse armor. You don't need the sword. Because you're going to find stuff in the actual game that's cooler than the pre-order crap anyway. Okay?
Hey, go watch my most recent video called Avoiding FOMO.
There you go.
I literally just recorded the video this morning, and it could not be more true with gaming these days. I'm Neil with the Balding Plebs, and I'm joined here tonight for the return of the Exposed Gaming Podcast for the Plebbies this year by my good friend Big Rick. Ricky, great to have you back on here, bro. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this morning.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm not sure how frequent we're going to do these things. I guess we'll do it whenever there's like big news.
Run our own time.
But yeah. And let us know in the comments if there's any stories or gaming news that we should talk about.
Yeah,
or any topics in general in the gaming world or entertainment, generally like movies and stuff. Sure.
Yep.
Drop it in the comments.
If there's any big gaming news or takes you guys or stories that you guys want our takes on, let us know in the comments. Like the video if you enjoyed the return of the Exposed Gaming Podcast and the Plebbies this year. And we're going to see you damn plebeians right here next time. Ricky, take us home.
Bye, guys.